Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I am so excited to talk to you guys about a specific topic today. Like my brain's all lit up and it's sort of swimming with all these thoughts, and it's not anything that I haven't shared before. Really and truly, there's nothing new to see here. But I really want to talk about this topic. Okay, it is the attitude, the importance of getting into the attitude of I don't give a fuck. Not a single fuck. Not a flying fuck, okay? Not any kind of fuck, okay? About, so what does that mean? What does that mean? Let me slow down, dude. I just, I'm too excited. What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay. I'm going to give you a little background about myself. Okay, because maybe it will help you understand what a journey this has been. I am a person that has ADHD. Dude, recently I've had some sort of intuitive knowing that I very likely also have autism. Okay, to my ADHD homies out there, hey, I see you. Okay, so I have a doctor's appointment. I'm going to go and get tested for this to see if that is actually the case, dude. But something in me goes, yeah. Okay, and so when you are neurodivergent, and this is true, dude, for every kid, right? Neurotypical, neurodivergent, same. You have criticisms that come on you, right? When you are a kid, dude, kids will let you know, in the playground, they will let you know when you are not doing things correctly. When you are showing up in a way that is not, got the group approval. In my home, with my family, I often was communicated to that I was not doing things in the correct way. If I was like reading and lost in thought in my reading, I could have, some outbursts that would pull me out of that train of thought. And I'd go, oh shit, there's some mayhem happening here. And people are upset that I'm not in the spirit of the mayhem that's happening, that I'm in some other world. There's frustration coming my way. Right? And so I always felt like there was going to be disapproval. And sometimes that disapproval, dude, was going to come with pain in one way or another. But I also felt like I didn't know how to get into the spirit of what everybody else was doing and how they were thinking. I just felt sort of behind. I really did. Although, dude, when I was a kid in school, I was tested and invited to join the Gifted and Talented program. Very, very common thing that happens to neurodivergent kids, actually. I remember even when I was in first grade, they had me sitting like in a specific table because of my reading level. My reading comprehension was so advanced to the other kids. So different things like that. Dude, I have a whole list of things, okay? All the way up, dude. In all of my educational circles, there have been exceptional things, things that I feel a lot of joy and pride about. But dude, it's not about that. So I'm not even going to get into all the details. The point is there has been marked difference with me in social circles, in academic circles, in family circles. Okay. And I really, dude, I could write a whole book on the topic of Erica is different. Okay. And so what does that mean? When you, there is a term that I'm going to share with you right now. It is called, dude, what is it called? Rejection. You know what? I'm going to put it in the description because I cannot even think of the word right now. Dude, I only learned this term a few years ago, and I got really into it because I was like, oh shit, this explains so much about me. The idea is all of us feel shame when we are in these sorts of situations where we are feeling like we are not quite fitting in, right? And we have a certain amount of rejection that comes our way. When you have this rejection, it's like a dysphoria. I'll put it in the description. You feel that shame so much more acutely than somebody who does not have that would. Okay. And this is like sort of a controversial thing. Not everybody fully accepts it. The bottom line is, all I know is that when I first learned about this, it resonated with my soul. I was like, oh my gosh. Wow. And this is why I loved learning about my ADHD, because I felt like I understood myself in a different way, dude. And it wasn't about making excuses for myself. It was about understanding myself. When I tell you that I have felt like an actual alien my whole life, like an actual alien. And my feeling is that my classmates looked at me like I was an actual alien too. Okay. So they saw something in me and I saw something in me. I was like, I don't know what it is, dude, but I don't quite fit in. And I'm sure all of us, dude, have that feeling to some degree. All I can tell you is I always felt that way, dude. I think the only space that I felt more like myself in an academic setting was in theater class, dude. Just looking back, I think that was like the most myself, dude. I was in a class full of like a ragtag group of people who didn't give a shit about not fitting in quite right. Okay. And I remember this was a big deal because, you know, my friends were like, no, you cannot do theater. No, because there's like a certain like cool factor that's not associated with doing theater, you know, when you're in high school, or maybe just in general, dude. I think it's wonderful and it's beautiful. So what can I tell you? Okay. I didn't give a shit about their opinion. I loved being in theater. I felt like myself in there, dude. I felt like I could just be my weird self. Okay. Regardless of whatever the exterior was giving. I could just be myself. I didn't have to worry about pretending to be any other thing, right? This feeling of like, I am not, like in some ways I felt like I was quicker than everyone else, but in some ways I felt like I was slower than everyone else in that they understood, for example, social expectations, social cues of how things should be done. Okay, like perfect example is doing theater. I didn't give a fuck, right? But they did. They would never have broken those unwritten, unspoken rules for themselves, dude. No fucking way they would have done that. And they didn't, dude. Right? Me, I didn't give a fuck. I found some of my own soul in those spaces. And I found some of my best friends, two specific women that I met in that class who I still, dude, consider some of my best friends to this day. Okay, just honesty. One of them has gone on to that other place. Okay, so I don't get to interact with her anymore, though I still send her messages on Facebook every once in a while to let her know that I am thinking of her. And that I love her and that she means so much to me. Okay, so my ADHD brain, as you can see, is sort of taking me all over the place. There's too much to cover. Let me focus. The point is that over time, I became more and more and more concerned about what things looked like. When I got married, I remember thinking, okay, now I have to get into the performance, into the role of what it means to be married. what it means to be a married woman, dude. I'm still trying to figure out what it means to be a woman. I'm still trying to find comfort in the space of being feminine. Okay. And so it was a tricky time, but the further I got into that relationship, the more I would be honest about how I felt, the more that those feelings essentially got either ignored, dismissed, there was like coddling. It's like, okay, yeah, we're going to take care of this. Don't worry. We're going to fix this. And then nothing would change. And essentially us having pretty much the same conversation year after year, and me having periods. I remember periods of like 3 years or so where I just even wouldn't bring up the topic of the heartache that I was experiencing in this connection, because I didn't want to have to be ignored in one way or another. I knew that I was going to be dismissed, and there was something in me that felt like, wow, this is just my life. My feelings, my needs, my wants. Nobody gives a shit. Like, this is my partner. This is my best friend. This is a person that I've chosen to be loyal and faithful to and walk side by side with. And this person doesn't give a fuck, not really, about me and my needs. Okay? And so I had to get further and further away from that pain. That is pain. Okay? And so over the years, dude, I put on the masks and I did more pretending. I didn't want to be connected to my feelings. No, it was too much. It was too much, you guys. Okay? And so what did I do? I grew numb. I grew more and more sad. More and more unimportant. More and more like I just didn't matter. Not to any fucking body, dude. Not really. Who I am as a person, who I am as a soul, it means nothing, dude. It's just another bit of wind flowing through these trees. It's nothing. Which, to me, the wind blowing through the trees is beautiful. But when I tell you that I felt like nothing. And so when I went to a therapist and I went through, we went through, okay, but I'm going to say I went through, because essentially the therapist is really just there to guide you. You still are the one having to do all the work, dude. I'd meet with him, love this person. But if, when our meetings were over, I was still the one who would have to go home and spend time considering these topics, getting to know myself. It was like, it really was, dude. It was like, when you're first meeting somebody, imagine you're going on a first date and you're excited about this person and you're nervous, you're trepidatious, you don't know what's going to come out of this, right? It was that energy, dude. I was like, wait a minute. There's a person existing here. There's value here.